For decades, India and China have walked a fine line between rivalry and necessity. They fought wars, clashed on their borders, and eyed each other with suspicion. Yet today, as America sharpens its economic and political pressure, something unexpected is happening. India is turning its gaze eastward. Beijing is no longer just the looming competitor, it's becoming a potential partner in survival. The United States once believed it could anchor India firmly in its camp, but rising tariffs, demands over Russian oil, and relentless pressure are backfiring. India, proud of its independence, refuses to be dictated to. And so, while Washington grows louder, New Delhi grows quieter, opening the door to an uneasy but powerful dialogue with China. This is not about friendship. It is about strategy, leverage, and a future where India decides its own path, no matter who tries to control it. China's foreign minister stepping onto Indian soil may not sound like a global earthquake, but in geopolitics, symbols matter more than words. For years, the border clashes in Ladakh and the shadow of mistrust kept New Delhi and Beijing apart. But now, with Washington pressuring India to abandon Russian oil, to pay higher tariffs, and to align with American interests, the cracks are showing. India sees what many in the West ignore. China is not going anywhere. It shares a vast border, commands the world's second-largest economy, and is reshaping Asia's balance of power. For Prime Minister Modi, this moment is about choice. Keep absorbing U.S. pressure, or pivot eastward and create leverage by playing powers against each other. This is why China's outreach matters. By offering trade relief, energy cooperation, and even a reduction in border tensions, Beijing is dangling opportunities that the U.S. simply won't provide. Washington talks about democracy and alliances, but it delivers tariffs, lectures, and punishments. Beijing, on the other hand, speaks in the language of deals, pipelines, and markets. India is listening. But make no mistake, this is not surrender. India will never bow to China's dominance. Instead, it's the art of strategic autonomy, a principle India has guarded since the Cold War. The United States assumed that pressure would tighten India's grip as a partner, but instead it is forcing New Delhi to explore alternatives. Every handshake between an Indian and Chinese diplomat now sends a message to Washington. India is not your pawn. If America wants loyalty, it must earn it. Otherwise, India will keep its doors open to Beijing, to Moscow, to whoever respects its independence. That is the real power of India's move eastward, not submission, but freedom. History reminds us that India and China are not destined for eternal rivalry. Centuries ago, their civilizations traded ideas, goods, and philosophies across the Silk Road. What divides them today are borders drawn by colonialism and modern competition for power. Yet in a shifting world order, both nations recognize a simple truth. Together, they can resist Western dominance in ways they never could alone. When the U.S. demands India abandon Russian energy, Beijing steps forward offering discounted trade routes and joint projects under the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. When Washington threatens sanctions, China hints at technology transfers and manufacturing partnerships. Each gesture is carefully calculated to remind New Delhi that isolation is a choice, but so is alignment. For India, the danger lies in trust. The scars of Galwan still linger, and public opinion views China with suspicion. Modi cannot appear weak before his people, nor can he abandon India's long-standing partnerships with the US, Japan, or Australia. But he also understands the value of pressure politics. By warming to Beijing, even cautiously, India sends a signal to Washington: respect us or lose us. It is the classic non-aligned strategy, only now in a 21st century where economic interdependence replaces military alliances as the true currency of power. This dance between India and China is not friendship, it is chess. Each move creates new leverage, each meeting shifts the balance of global influence. If India can use its engagement with China to force the U.S. into offering fairer trade, better technology, and genuine partnership, then the gamble will have paid off. In the great game of geopolitics, the one who has options holds the power. And today, India is showing the world it has more options than Washington ever imagined. The United States has long believed that India's future would naturally align with the West. After all, both are democracies, both share concerns over China's rise, and both speak the language of opportunity. But Washington underestimated one thing: India's hunger for sovereignty. No nation with 1.4 billion people, with ancient roots and modern ambition, will ever allow itself to be controlled. This is why the pivot eastward is so powerful. It is not a rejection of the West, but a reminder that India belongs to no camp but its own. As America pushes harder on trade, on defense, on oil, the backlash only grows stronger, and the world is watching. Europe, Southeast Asia, Africa, all see India holding the line, refusing to bend, carving its own destiny. With every handshake in Beijing and every oil deal with Moscow, India is declaring to the world, "We are not your pawn. We are a power in our own right." For the US, this should be a wake-up call. To keep India close, it must learn the art of respect, not pressure. To treat India as an equal partner, not a subordinate. Because if Washington continues down the path of arrogance, India will keep building bridges with those America calls rivals. And when that happens, the balance of global power will shift, not with war, but with choices. So, as China and India cautiously explore reconciliation, the story is not about alliances, but autonomy. Not about dependence, but independence. And perhaps that is the secret Washington fears most, that the more it pushes, the more India proves it cannot be controlled. The future is being written not in Washington or Beijing, but in New Delhi, where every decision carries the weight of a new world order.